Elijhah Badger is in the transfer portal, and now our question is, who's going to replace him?
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications wherever you're getting your podcast, and stay in touch with the show by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. It was a busy day yesterday for Arizona State. We saw the final sanctions get handed out for the football program regarding the transfer stuff, and to just breeze over that real quick, basically everything has been handled. The only thing that's still left is a couple of weeks this spring and a couple of weeks this summer. ASU will not be able to recruit, so they can't bring kids on for visits. They cannot contact recruits. And I think Chris Cartman said expect 2 or 3 scholarships to be taken away. That's it. So good news considering all the circumstances. Now, what I want to talk about today is the bad news that was Elijhah Badger entering the transfer portal. But we've got some guys who could replace him. And at the end of the podcast, I want to introduce you guys to the brand new 4-star receiver that's joining us for the 2025 recruiting class. But with Badger transferring, it's obviously bad news. It's obviously something that absolutely kicked us right in the chest. Badger was a number 1 receiver in every way, shape, and form of the word, of the status, of the pedigree that you look for. He had good hands, he had a good route runner, good speed, someone that can do it all. So he can beat you deep, but he can also beat you across the middle of the field. He can take the checkdowns, he can take the jet sweeps. You just get the ball in his hands, and he's a playmaker. He was truly a special player and someone who was knocking on the door of history at the program. Badger was looking to wind up in the top 10 in receptions and receiving yards for the team. He's knocking on the door right now. 135 catches over the last 2 years, over 1,500 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns. He's been a stud. And he will not be where N'Keal Harry, Jalen Strong, and Brandon Ayuk were, but he could have been. If he had played another year, if he had been able to get to that 1,000-yard mark, you would have had him in that same conversation of best receivers over the last 10 years for Arizona State. Elijhah Badger is one of them. And he still would be, but unfortunately we'll never get to see him finish out his career with the Sun Devils, more than likely. Could he withdraw from the portal? Sure. Are we counting on it? Absolutely not. Not at all. There's always that chance, but we also need to be working under the assumption that Badger is moving on from the program. And it's a tough blow. And I mean, there's a lot of things that could have factored into it. One of the more obvious components, and to me, the timing is no coincidence, was Jaden Rashada entering the transfer portal. And the moment Rashada entered the portal, you began having questions about who's next. Because early in the week, I had said myself, like, hey, I think this is going to be a quiet period for ASU. I don't think a lot of people are going to enter the transfer portal. I think we're good. Well, Jaden Rashada enters the transfer portal. There's no bigger name on ASU that enters the transfer portal, and it feels like it's going to be a domino effect because now your number 1 receiver is gone. Who else is going to be leaving? That's your big question. But hopefully this is going to be the end of it. But my point is Rashada could have been a big deal. But you also have to wonder if Badger was looking for other opportunities, whether it's NIL based or, maybe it's just getting his name out there. Because from my understanding, Alabama, yes, the Alabama is the front runners for Elijhah Badger. I can't really think of a bigger stage for a wide receiver to go to. And it'd be a great opportunity for him. He would have a chance to compete for a national championship. He'd be smack dab in the middle of the spotlight. He would get to play with tons of NFL caliber players. it's a perfect opportunity for him if he does end up in Alabama. So there's all sorts of stuff outside that could have affected him. But maybe there was also a logjam at the wide receiver position, because now I want to talk about who replaces him. I don't know if it's one specific guy, but ASU does have a pool of receivers. You've got Jordyn Tyson, who I want to explain more about in a minute, Troy Omeire, Melquan Stovall, and Jake Smith. Those four guys feels like more than enough to be able to get you through the season. Now, as of now, to be fair and still wait for summer and training camp to go through, I think those are all number 2 receivers. But if you build your receiving core with a bunch of number 2s, it can make up for not having a true number 1 receiver. And they all do all sorts of different stuff. They press different buttons for you. Jordyn Tyson, he's the burner. He's the big play guy. Troy Omeire is the big body. He's the red zone kind of guy. Jake Smith, a route running savant. Just find a way to get him the ball. Melquan Stovall, really good in the slot. Get ways to, the plays breaking down, just get it to Stovall. They all press very different buttons for you. And that's going to make up for Elijhah Badger, who pressed all of those buttons. So yeah, you don't have one receiver that fits each one of those needs, but you do have a receiver in each level of that. Not each level. You have a receiver that fills one of those needs, is what I'm trying to say. Now, I mentioned I want to dive into Jordyn Tyson a little more. And the reason why is because Jordyn Tyson looks like him. He is Timothy Chalamet. He is Hemi Turner. He's all of the little funny jokes and whatnot that you can make for him. He looks like a beast. He looks healthy, first of all, which was the reason he didn't get on the field last year. But the guy I hyped up all of last offseason is arriving. And he's mossing guys, and he's too fast, and he's too explosive to be stopped. He's got good hands. They're sticky. You put the ball up, see if Tyson can come down with it. You feel pretty good about his odds. You're not ready for him to, or you're not ready to give him that label, that distinction as like, hey, this is number 1 wide receiver. This is a superstar, the way that you were with Elijhah Badger. But I kind of wonder if he's that far off, because I don't know that he is. As long as he finishes out the spring strong and he picks up where he left off during training camp in late July and early August, you got to feel good about the upside there. And you got to feel good that he can be that number 1 receiver for you. But even if he's not, there's plenty of guys. We're going to touch on that more in just a little bit before we round out talking about the new incoming 2025 recruit in just a moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I've been told that I myself am a competitive person. It's my friends, it's my family, my co-host. If you think that's true, well, you're probably right, because I do have a competitive side. We all do, though. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it by now. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with your friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties just like classic Monopoly, but I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And leaderboards show me the biggest Monopoly tycoon, who they are, and how I can get to them. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it, because you can team up with your friends and people around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in on the action. Join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and Google Play. Also want to talk to you about our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. The winning formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number 1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And the eBay Guaranteed Fit means your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because of the eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Let's go ahead and round out our show now. I want to talk to you guys about how you can approach it, what each guy brings to the table, what to do from here with your wide receiver room, and then introduce you to the 4-star guy that I am promising. So besides Jordyn Tyson, who is looking like a potential superstar for the team, there's still a lot of different ways you can replace Elijhah Badger. One of those ways would be to figure out how to distribute targets. So where Badger would have suctioned up 100 plus targets easily, you're now looking at a situation where 4 or 5 guys are going to get 40 each, 50 each, 60 each. You are not so much worrying about having an X on the field as much as you are having matchups to play. And you always play matchups, but now it's even more so because you don't have a number one receiver who can take on any matchup. And this isn't to say someone couldn't turn into that. I'm not saying Troy Omeire or Jordyn Tyson, Melquan Stovall, Jake Smith, anybody else. I'm not saying they can't be a number one receiver, but we're talking right now, April 20th. You are going to be looking at how you can replicate what he brought to the table, more so than replace him, I should say. It's not easy, but you're going to be playing matchups more on an individual basis than you would be kind of a scheme basis. You're going to look at Jordyn Tyson and you're going to say, hey, we really like you on the far right side of the field. You're going to see Melquan Stovall and say you're going to be in the slot. You're going to see Jake Smith. There's going to be times he's in the slot. Omeire is going to be working out wide. You're going to have bunch sets, whatever. Whatever the sets you are, you're playing even more specialized to the personnel you're against. Because again, with Elijhah Badger, this is somebody that can go up against whoever. A linebacker, a corner, a nickel, a safety. He's someone that can do that. With what you have now, you're just going to be playing the matchups a little bit more. You're not going to necessarily have one guy that you can go, yeah, he can do anything. You're going to be looking at setting these guys up in a position to succeed because you have to replace a number one receiver. That's the whole caveat here. Because again, I'll echo this. These guys could all very well be superstars. They could. Each of these guys could be a 1,000-yard receiver in the capability sense. Not denying that. But again, as of right now, we're talking about how you're going to replicate rather than replace. So I walk back what I said earlier about replace. I will change it to replicate. It's not going to be easy. They should be able to figure out how to do it. For me, it's just really playing individual matchups. You don't have a guy right now who can play anyone. And that's okay. You don't need that guy if you've got 4 guys who are able to exploit weaknesses on the defense and have their own success. Now, I want to round out talking about the brand new Arizona State Sun Devil committed yesterday for the 2025 recruiting class, Adrian Wilson. Great name to be playing in the state of Arizona. Great name. Adrian Wilson, wide receiver from Pflugerville, Texas, out of Weiss High School. 6 foot, 170 pounds. He is a consensus 4-star, and he is a top 20 receiver in the nation. Now, according to Wilson, he said that ASU was already really high on his choices for where he wanted to go. But he said that what pushed him over the top was Hines Ward. And that's really, really cool. Because there was questions, and I asked the question myself. we were saying, hey, can Hines Ward recruit? Like, we know that Hines Ward is one of the most accomplished receivers in NFL history. We know that people are going to want to play with him. I spoke with Chris Cartman about this, and he said, more than anything, you're going to find guys in the transfer portal that are looking to get polished for the pros, and Hines Ward is a guy who can get you polished. It's a perfect way to view it. But now you're seeing that, that quick, he is already recruiting top receivers in the nation. And for what it's worth, he is a higher recruit than Cooper Perry is. Cooper Perry, who we were banging the table for, is the number 28 receiver in the nation. 4-star. Adrian Wilson is number 18. It's just cool. It doesn't mean everything, but it's cool to see that, you do miss out on the top recruit in your own state. But you know what? They went and attacked and got somebody who is ranked higher, could be better, and you still are filling out one of your mantras. You have Activate the Valley, but you've also got Texas to Tempe, which was that situation for you, and you got the Polynesian Pipeline as well. ASU is attacking their team in more ways than one. Adrian Wilson, just another potential slam dunk for the team. If nothing else, you just love to see it for recruiting, that on the same day that you lose a player of, I almost said Hines Ward, of Elijhah Badger's caliber, you're still able to bring in guys that are high-level players. Really looking forward to see how Adrian Wilson can build upon his final season. This is a 2025 kid, so we'll see him next year with a class that's got Butter Tollefson, another 4-star quarterback. They are loading up right now. ASU is up to 5 4-stars in the first 3 recruiting cycles for Arizona State under Kenn Dillingham. Love to see it. Let's keep the momentum going. Losing Badger sucks. There is a plan. It's just not going to be a specific receiver for now. It's going to be a culmination of guys. And of course, we'll keep you updated on any transfer news, any recruiting news, whatever's going on with football, basketball, or otherwise. So, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on notifications. I'll see you guys around next time. Thanks as always for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Like I said, guys, we'll be keeping you in touch with everything. We will be back again on Monday. And don't forget, the spring game for ASU football is going to be next Friday. If you can make it out to the game, go to the game, support the guys and everything. Especially right now, they definitely need a morale boost. Go to the game. I'll keep you up to date otherwise. I'll see you next time. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.